Every town has a dark side. The city of Rochester, New York, for most of you out there, is just a random place in America. I mean, if you're not from the area, chances are this town never crosses your mind, and that's understandable. However, after today's episode, I'm almost positive you'll never forget it, even if you wish you could. Because between 1971 and 73, 3 young girls here were abducted.
Each victim was around the same age, 10 or 11 years old. They were all abducted from Rochester, sexually assaulted and strangled. Their bodies dumped in or near a town that started...
And these girls weren't picked at random. They were targeted for the simple reason...
The Alphabet Case, Part 1. It's the early 1970s, a time when most Americans are blissfully unaware of what lurks in the shadows. In the city of Rochester, New York, 3 young people have disappeared. 2 girls and a boy, all with first names that begin with the letter A. When their bodies turn up dead and dumped in places around the city that start with the same letter, investigators are faced with a chilling mystery. What could be connecting these seemingly random crimes? Is there a serial killer loose in the streets of Rochester? And is there anything the police can do to stop them before it's too late? Welcome to this channel. Today we are answering the question, what happened in the Alphabet Case? Alice Deming was a popular 12-year-old girl who lived with her mother and stepfather in an apartment at 443 North Clinton Avenue in Rochester, New York. On December 6, 1971, Alice didn't come home from school. Her mother, Helen, and stepfather, Joseph, assumed that she had gone to spend the night with a friend. But after 2 days had passed without her return, they filed a missing persons report. On December 8th, the morning after the report was filed, 2 boys playing near the railroad tracks off Dewey Avenue came across the body of a girl, later identified as Alice. She had been partially stripped and was lying on her side, bound with electrical cord and stuffed into a concrete culvert. An autopsy revealed that she had been strangled with the cord and had also been sexually assaulted. The next day, as the search for Alice's killer intensified, another young girl vanished. 15-year-old Barbara McCauley left her family home at around 1 p.m. to pick up some chicken bones from a nearby grocery store. She never made it. A huge search effort was organized involving hundreds of volunteers, but despite their best efforts, no trace of Barbara could be found. Days turned into weeks, but still there was no sign of Barbara. The entire community was gripped by fear as it became clear that whoever had taken her might still be at large. Then, just when all hope seemed to be lost, a break in the case occurred. On January 6, 1972, 100 discovered human remains in a wooded area off Westfall Road. The bones were sent to the medical examiner, who determined that they belonged to Barbara. She had been beaten and strangled, but the exact cause of death couldn't be established due to the advanced state of decomposition. Strangely enough, the spot where Barbara's remains were found started with the letter A, just like the street where she lived, Allendale Drive, the place where she was last seen, Anderson Avenue, and the name of the killer, Anthony, a common nickname for Anthony. Could this be a coincidence, or was there something more sinister at play? As the investigation into Barbara's murder progressed, detectives uncovered a shocking twist. They learned that Barbara had been 6 months pregnant at the time of her disappearance. Who was the father of her unborn child, and did this have anything to do with her murder? Was there a serial killer on the loose? Meanwhile, as the investigation continued, 2 more bodies were discovered. On February 8th, the body of a young boy named Anthony Nays was found in an abandoned house on Averill Avenue. Just like the girls, Anthony's body was found in a spot whose name began with the letter A. He had been strangled with an electrical cord, and his body posed in a similar way to Alice's. Anthony had been reported missing by his mother, Mary, almost 2 weeks earlier. She had last seen him on February when he left their apartment on Averill Avenue to go buy some cigarettes. Then on April 5th, the body of another young girl was found stuffed in a culvert in an Arnett Park, not far from where Alice was found. This girl was later identified as 11-year-old Wanda Lee, who had gone missing on March 31st after leaving her home on Allendale Drive to buy some groceries. Wanda's mother, Lillian, had filed a missing persons report right away, and now the police were faced with a horrifying realization. They had 4 murdered children on their hands, all with names that began with the letter A, all found in places whose names also began with A. The media quickly picked up on the story and dubbed it the Alphabet Murders. But as the investigation deepened, the police realized that the connection between the victims went beyond just their initials. For starters, each victim had been killed in a different part of the city. suggesting that the killer was familiar with the area. Each victim had also been strangled with an electrical cord, indicating that the killer had a preference for this type of murder weapon. And while each victim's body had been posed in a similar manner, each had been found in a different location, suggesting that the killer had chosen these spots specifically to taunt the authorities. But as the investigation continued, the police would uncover an even more disturbing twist. It seemed as though the killer had carefully selected their victims based on their first names. Each victim had been chosen because their first name began with the letter A, and the killer had then taken their bodies to places around the city that also started with the same letter. But why? What was the motive behind this gruesome game? As the police worked around the clock to find the killer, the citizens of Rochester took matters into their own hands. They formed neighborhood watch groups and kept their children indoors out of fear that the killer might strike again. The city was paralyzed by fear as nobody knew if their children would be the next victims. But despite the public's best efforts, the killer would strike again. On May 13th, the body of a 23-year-old woman named Michelle Maenza was found in an abandoned house on Alvarez Avenue, not far from where Anthony and Wanda had been found. Michelle had been strangled with an electric cord just like the other victims, and her body had been posed in the same way as the other victims. But what really shocked the police was the fact that Michelle's name didn't start with the letter A. So was this a random killing, or was there a more sinister reason behind it? As the investigation into Michelle's murder progressed, the police began to suspect that they were dealing with a serial killer. All of the victims had been killed in the same way, strangled with an electrical cord and posed in a similar manner. And the killer had apparently chosen their victims based on their first names, and then dumped their bodies in places around the city that also started with the same letter. But what was the motive behind these gruesome killings? As the police searched for answers, they uncovered a shocking twist. It seemed that the killer was targeting victims with first names that started with different letters of the alphabet. After Michelle, the next victim was a 24-year-old man named James Gallup. His body was found in an abandoned house on Brambleton Road, not far from where Michelle had been found. James had been strangled with an electrical cord and his body had been posed in the same way as the other victims. But what really shocked the police was the fact that James's name didn't start with the letter A. So was this a random killing, or was there a more sinister reason behind it? As the investigation continued, the police uncovered a terrifying pattern. The killer was apparently targeting victims with first names that started with different letters of the alphabet. But why? Was this just a sick game, or was there a deeper motive at play? As the investigation into James's murder progressed, the police received a break in the case. A witness came forward and claimed to have seen a man matching Anthony's description. Near the scene of the crime, the man had been driving a brown Chevrolet Nova, and when the police checked Anthony's address, they discovered that he owned a brown Chevrolet Nova. Anthony was brought in for questioning, but he denied any involvement in the murders. However, the police were able to place him at the scene of one of the murders through eyewitness testimony. Anthony confessed to killing Michelle, but he claimed that he had not killed any of the other victims. He was charged with Michelle's murder and pleaded guilty. But as the trial dragged on, the police uncovered more evidence linking Anthony to the other murders. They found fibers from one of the victims in Anthony's car, and witnesses placed him at several of the crime scenes. Anthony was ultimately convicted of killing Michelle, James, and Wanda, and was sentenced to 3 consecutive prison terms of 25 years each. He is currently serving his sentence at the Shawangunk Correctional Facility in New York. To this day, the case remains one of the most perplexing mysteries in American history, and many people still wonder if Anthony acted alone, or if there was someone else involved in the crimes. Despite extensive investigation, the police were never able to find the person responsible for killing Alice, Barbara, and Anthony. Their deaths remain unsolved and their families are still searching for answers. What do you think? Do you think Anthony acted alone, or was there someone else involved in the crimes? What do you think is the motive behind the alphabet murders? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe and we will see you next time.